Life will never stop testing you. It will bring challenges, frustrations, losses, disappointments, failures, betrayals, and painful moments that hit you without warning. You can't stop the storm, but you can train the mind that walks through it. Stoicism is not about pretending everything is good. Stoicism is about building the mental strength to stay steady even when nothing around you is steady. When you learn to stay positive in a negative situation, you become the kind of person who cannot be broken by circumstances, people, or pressure. You learn to control your inner world so deeply that the outer world can shake, but you don't. In this video, you will learn 7 Stoic lessons that will help you remain calm, hopeful, grounded, and mentally strong even when life becomes difficult. These lessons will not just give you motivation, they will give you a new operating system for your mind. Let's begin. 1. Control the meaning, not the moment. Most people don't break because of what happens to them. They break because of the story they start telling themselves the moment something goes wrong. A negative situation is just an event, but the meaning you attach to that event decides whether you stay calm or fall apart. For example, when someone goes through a breakup, the breakup itself is painful, but the real damage happens when the mind starts saying things like, "I'm not worthy," "I'm unlovable," or "My life is ruined." None of these thoughts are facts. They are emotional meanings your mind creates when you feel hurt. The same thing happens with failure. You make one mistake, and suddenly your brain turns it into a whole identity. I always fail. Nothing works for me. I'm cursed. But the situation never said that your interpretation did. Stoicism teaches that you don't have to let the first meaning your mind creates control you. You can pause and ask yourself, is this thought accurate, or is it just my fear talking? Negative situations are not as powerful as the meaning you attach to them. You regain your strength the moment you take control of the interpretation. Life will always throw problems at you. People will disappoint you, plans will fall apart, and things will not always go your way. But in every situation, you have one choice. Will you interpret this emotionally or intelligently? Emotional thinking makes everything feel personal and permanent, while logical thinking reminds you that everything is temporary and can be handled. Real positivity comes from choosing a meaning that empowers you rather than destroys you. When something goes wrong, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" switch to, "What is this trying to teach me?" When you ask better questions, you create better meanings. Maybe the challenge is building your discipline. Maybe the delay is saving you from a mistake. Maybe the disappointment is guiding you towards something better. You don't get to choose the event, but you always choose the meaning, and the meaning shapes your emotions, your decisions, and your peace. This is the heart of Stoicism. You cannot control the moment, but you can always control the meaning. And the meaning determines whether you stay broken or become stronger. 2. Focus on your response, not the problem. Every negative situation pulls your attention toward the problem itself. Your mind immediately starts replaying what went wrong, who caused it, how unfair it feels, and what you might lose because of it. This reaction is natural, but it is also the reason most people feel powerless in difficult moments. The more you focus on the problem, the bigger it feels. The more energy you give to the problem, the more it takes away your clarity. Stoicism teaches the opposite approach. Stop giving power to the problem and start strengthening the one thing you always control, your response. There are 2 types of energy in life. One is wasted energy, which is when you complain, panic, overthink, blame others, or imagine worst-case scenarios. The other is productive energy, which is when you think calmly, take a step back, analyze the situation, and choose your next move with intelligence instead of emotion. The moment you shift your attention from the problem to your response, the entire situation changes. You move from victim mode to warrior mode. You stop asking, "Why is this happening?" and start asking, "What can I do right now that actually helps?" Most people make their situation worse by reacting too fast and too emotionally. They say things they don't mean, make decisions without thinking, or assume the worst before anything has even happened. Stoicism teaches that the first reaction is usually the weakest reaction because it comes from emotion, not wisdom. When something negative happens, you must train your mind to slow down and focus on what you can control. You cannot control how others think or act. You cannot control the behavior of rude people, unexpected delays, sudden problems, or life's unpredictability. But you can always control your thoughts, your attitude, your choices, your actions, and the way you carry yourself through the situation. A powerful response is not about pretending everything is fine. A powerful response is about choosing not to let the situation control your inner state. For example, if someone disrespects you, your response matters more than their behavior. If a plan fails, your next move matters more than the failure itself. If life surprises you with difficulty, your mindset decides whether you stay overwhelmed or become stronger. When you respond with clarity instead of panic, your mind becomes steady enough to see solutions that emotional people miss. The Stoics believed that your response is where your true power lives. Problems will always exist, but suffering is optional because suffering comes from how you respond to what happens. When you focus on what you can do next rather than replaying what already happened, you rebuild your control, confidence, and peace. And when you consistently choose your response instead of being dragged by the problem, you develop a form of strength that negative situations cannot shake. This is how you stay positive, not by avoiding the storms of life, but by choosing a response that keeps your mind above the storm. 3. Do not feed the emotion, starve it. Negative situations naturally bring strong emotions: fear, anger, sadness, anxiety, frustration, disappointment. Feeling these emotions is human, but allowing them to take over your mind is what turns a temporary difficulty into a long-term mental storm. The problem is not the emotion itself. The real problem begins when you start feeding the emotion with thoughts, assumptions, memories, and exaggerated stories. The more attention you give to a negative emotion, the more it grows. The more you replay the situation, the more intense the emotion becomes. What started as a moment of discomfort becomes a dark mental loop you can't escape from. Stoicism teaches a powerful truth. You are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. Most people do the opposite. They merge with the emotion and start believing it is their identity. They say, "I am angry, I am anxious, I am broken," as if these emotions define who they are. But emotions are temporary visitors. They come, they stay for a moment, and they leave. The moment you treat them like visitors instead of permanent roommates, their power over you weakens instantly. When a painful emotion rises, your first instinct is to react. You want to argue, defend yourself, overthink, call someone, distract yourself, or take fast action just to reduce the discomfort. But reacting too quickly is how you feed the emotion. You end up adding fuel to something that would have faded away if you had simply allowed it to pass without feeding it. Every emotion has a natural lifespan. If you don't feed it with storytelling, it dissolves much faster than you expect. This is why Stoics practiced emotional awareness. Instead of saying, "I am angry," they would say, "Anger is present in me right now." Instead of saying, "I am hurt," they would say, "Hurt is passing through me." This small shift creates distance between you and the emotion. And the moment there is distance, there is control. You can observe the emotion without letting it dictate your actions, your words, or your decisions. Think of emotions like waves. A wave rises, reaches its peak, and then settles. But if you dive into every wave, you'll drown. If you stand still and observe, the wave passes. Negative emotions work the same way. They will rise and feel strong, but if you don't give them extra attention, they lose intensity. When you constantly replay a painful memory, retell the problem to others, or imagine worst-case scenarios, you give the emotion more fuel, more space, more life. Positivity becomes impossible because your mind is busy feeding the negativity. Stoic strength is not about suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel them. It's about refusing to let them grow into monsters. It's about refusing to let a single moment take over your entire day. It's about understanding that you have the power to acknowledge an emotion without obeying it. You can say, "I am feeling this, but it does not control me." That mindset alone can save your peace. When you stop feeding a negative emotion, you starve its power. You allow it to come and go like a passing cloud rather than letting it become a permanent storm. And when you master this skill, you become someone whose inner world stays steady even when the outer world becomes chaotic. 4. Practice the power of pause. Before you react. Negative situations pressure you into reacting instantly. When someone insults you, your mind wants to fire back. When something goes wrong, panic wants to take over. When you feel misunderstood or disrespected, your ego demands a response. This is the trap that ruins most people's peace. They react faster than they think. They make decisions in the heat of emotion, say words they regret later, take actions that create bigger problems, or jump to conclusions without seeing the full picture. Quick reactions feel satisfying in the moment, but they often cause long-term damage. Stoicism teaches that the strongest person in the room is not the one who reacts the fastest, but the one who pauses long enough to respond with clarity. The pause is not weakness. The pause is intelligence. It is the small space between stimulus and response where your true power lives. That pause allows your emotional brain to calm down and your logical brain to wake up. When you pause, you stop the emotional wave from controlling your actions. You give yourself space to understand the situation clearly instead of letting anger, fear, or frustration hijack your thinking. The pause gives you time to breathe, rethink, analyze, observe, and choose a response that protects your peace instead of destroying it. Most arguments, conflicts, and regrets come from reacting too quickly. You misunderstand someone, respond harshly, and later realize you didn't even see the situation correctly. You get bad news and assume the worst before knowing all the facts. You feel triggered and immediately send a message you can't take back. You feel insecure and jump into actions that damage relationships. Fast reactions come from emotions, and emotions are temporary, unstable, and often exaggerated. Stoicism teaches you that if you allow a temporary emotion to guide your permanent actions, you will create more suffering for yourself. When you pause before reacting, you take back the steering wheel of your mind. You become the driver, not the passenger. Even a 3-second pause can save you from hours of regret. The pause allows you to ask yourself important questions. Is this worth my energy? Am I seeing this correctly? What outcome do I actually want? Will reacting emotionally help or make it worse? These questions shift your mind from survival mode to wisdom mode. They remind you that responding is always more powerful than reacting. The pause also protects your relationships and your reputation. People who cannot control their reactions are unpredictable. They create unnecessary conflict, misunderstandings, and stress. But someone who pauses before they speak or act earns respect because their words and actions come from thought, not impulse. Stoics believed that a person who controls their reactions is more disciplined than a warrior who controls an army. Because taming the inner world is harder than conquering the outer world. Every negative situation gives you two paths: react emotionally or respond intelligently. The pause is the bridge between these two paths. Without the pause, you are controlled by emotion. With the pause, you control yourself. The pause gives you power over anger, over fear, over confusion, and over the chaos of the moment. It helps you rise above the situation instead of drowning inside it. If you train yourself to pause, even briefly, before responding, you develop a calm strength that most people never experience. You become someone who thinks before they speak, chooses before they act, and understands before they judge. That is not just positivity, that is mastery of the self. And once you master that, no negative situation can easily break you again. 5. Accept the situation, then use it. One of the biggest reasons people stay trapped in negativity is because they spend more time resisting reality than working with it. When something goes wrong, the natural human instinct is to fight the truth of the moment. You replay what you wish had happened. You hold on to how things used to be. You argue with reality in your mind. This shouldn't have happened. This isn't fair. Why me? This resistance does not change the situation. It only prolongs your pain. Stoicism teaches that acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is the first step toward power. You cannot change what you refuse to face. You cannot fix what you don't acknowledge. Acceptance is the moment you stop wasting energy on denial and start using that energy to move forward. Accepting a negative situation does not mean you approve of it or like it. It simply means you are brave enough to look at reality without lying to yourself. When you fully accept the situation, the breakup, the failure, the loss, the delay, the disappointment, you free your mind from the emotional weight of what should have been. You stop fighting the past and start dealing with the present. Acceptance gives you clarity, and clarity gives you control. As long as you resist reality, the situation controls you. But the moment you accept it, you take your power back. Most people confuse acceptance with weakness. They think accepting something means letting it dominate them. But in truth, acceptance is the beginning of strength. It opens the door to solutions, creativity, and growth. When you stop being emotionally stuck on why it happened, you become mentally free to ask, what can I do with this now? That one shift changes everything. A failed relationship can become a lesson in self-respect. A financial setback can become the push you needed to build new skills. A rejection can become protection from something that was not meant for you. A delay can become a preservation of your future. The situation itself might feel negative, but the way you use it can create something positive. Every difficulty contains a hidden advantage, but you will never see it while you are busy fighting reality. A negative situation may force you to grow faster than you planned, toughen your character in ways comfort never could, or reveal weaknesses you didn't know you had. Weaknesses you now have the chance to strengthen. Acceptance gives you the truth. And truth, even when uncomfortable, is far more powerful than illusions that feel good. Stoicism teaches that pain becomes lighter once you stop arguing with it. When you accept the moment, you stop carrying unnecessary emotional weight. You stop punishing yourself for what happened. You stop wishing for the impossible. You allow life to move forward instead of keeping yourself stuck in the same mental place. Acceptance does not change the event, but it transforms your relationship with the event. It allows you to see opportunities that emotional thinking hides, and it helps you use the situation to build a stronger, wiser, and more resilient version of yourself. When life hits you with something negative, you have two choices: resist it and suffer longer, or accept it and rise faster. The Stoic chooses acceptance, not because they are weak, but because they understand that fighting reality is a battle no one has ever won. Once you accept what is, you can work with it, bend it, learn from it, and eventually turn it into something that serves you. This kind of mindset does not just help you stay positive, it helps you become unstoppable. Because once you learn to accept and use everything life throws at you, there is nothing left that can truly defeat you. 6. Choose perspective over pain. Two people can live through the same situation and experience completely different emotional realities. One person collapses while the other stays calm. One feels hopeless while the other sees a new beginning. One becomes bitter while the other becomes wiser. The difference is not what happened. The difference is perspective. Perspective is the lens through which you interpret life, and that lens decides whether you feel empowered or defeated. The Stoics understood that you cannot control circumstances, but you can always control how you see those circumstances, and the way you see something determines the way you feel about it. Most people allow pain to shrink their perspective. When something goes wrong, the problem feels huge. It fills their entire mind. They zoom in so close that they see nothing except the difficulty. Everything becomes urgent, dramatic, emotional, and overwhelming. Their thoughts start spiraling. This is the end. Nothing will get better. Why does this always happen to me? When your perspective closes, your suffering grows. Pain becomes heavier when you stare at it from too close. This is why negative situations drown people, not because the situation is impossible, but because their perspective becomes too small to handle it. Stoicism teaches you to zoom out, to step back, to see the bigger picture instead of reacting from the narrow viewpoint of momentary emotion. When you zoom out, the problem becomes smaller, lighter, and easier to manage. You begin to understand that not every painful moment is a punishment. Some are redirections, some are wake-up calls, some are lessons you needed, and some are simply temporary disturbances on a much longer journey. When you zoom out, you realize that what feels huge today might not matter in a month, a year, or even tomorrow. Perspective gives you emotional distance, and emotional distance gives you strength. Pain makes you think the story is over. Perspective makes you realize the story is just changing direction. Every challenge contains meaning that you can only understand when you look at it from a wider angle. Yes, a failure hurts, but maybe it's preparing you for a better path. Yes, a rejection stings, but maybe it's stopping you from walking into the wrong future. Yes, a delay frustrates you, but maybe it's saving you from a burden you were not ready to carry. Perspective transforms frustration into understanding, and understanding into peace. The Stoic perspective is not about being unrealistically positive. It is about seeing reality without exaggeration. It is about not letting your emotions enlarge the problem beyond what it truly is. When you choose perspective, you begin asking empowering questions. How will this shape me? What could this be protecting me from? What part of me is being trained right now? These questions shift your mind from emotional suffering to deeper clarity. They remind you that difficulties are part of the human experience, not signs that your life is falling apart. Perspective also protects you from catastrophizing, which is when your mind jumps to the worst possible conclusion. Catastrophizing is the enemy of peace. It convinces you that temporary challenges are permanent disasters. But a Stoic mind does not jump to extremes. It stays steady, balanced, and logical. Instead of imagining destruction, it searches for understanding. Instead of seeing obstacles, it looks for pathways. Instead of sinking into negativity, it finds meaning in adversity. Choosing perspective over pain does not eliminate the difficulty, but it removes the suffering attached to it. A calm mind sees solutions that a panicked mind cannot, A wide perspective sees possibilities that a fearful perspective misses. A steady mindset turns obstacles into stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Every negative moment invites you to choose: will you let pain shape your perspective, or will you let perspective reshape your pain? When you consistently choose perspective, you become someone who does not break when tested. You become someone who can walk through darkness without losing sight of the light. And that is one of the greatest forms of Stoic positivity: the ability to stay grounded in truth, understanding, and wisdom even when life becomes difficult. 7. Become bigger than your problems. A negative situation only feels overwhelming when it becomes bigger than your mindset. When your inner world is small, every challenge looks massive, every setback feels like the end, every obstacle feels impossible. But when you expand your character, your discipline, your emotional strength, and your ability to endure discomfort, the same problems that once crushed you begin to look small and manageable. Stoicism teaches that the goal is not to make life easier. The goal is to make yourself stronger. Because once you become stronger than your problems, they lose their ability to control your mind and your peace. Most people hope their problems disappear. They pray for an easier path, fewer challenges, and a smoother journey. But the truth is that life does not get easier. You get better. You grow, you adapt, you toughen, you deepen your understanding, and you evolve into a version of yourself that can handle what used to break you. When you rely on comfort, situations will overwhelm you. When you rely on discipline and inner strength, situations will strengthen you. Problems become lighter, not because they shrink, but because you rise higher. Becoming bigger than your problems starts with how you see yourself in relation to adversity. If you see yourself as fragile, every difficulty will feel like a threat. If you see yourself as incapable, every challenge will feel impossible. But if you see yourself as a person with the ability to grow, learn, and adapt, every difficulty becomes an opportunity to expand your boundaries. Stoicism teaches that suffering decreases when your mindset increases. The more you grow as a person, the less power problems have over your emotions. One of the strongest Stoic practices is to intentionally face discomfort instead of avoiding it. Avoidance weakens you because it teaches your mind that you cannot handle challenges. But confronting difficulty strengthens you because it proves to your mind that you are capable. Every time you endure something hard, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical, you stretch the limits of who you are. You discover abilities you didn't know you had. You build resilience that you previously lacked. You transform into someone who doesn't fear the weight of life's pressure because you've trained yourself to carry more than the average person. Life will continue testing you until you develop the capacity to rise above situations rather than drown in them. A person who becomes bigger than their problems does not react emotionally to every inconvenience. They do not panic over delays, small failures, rude people, or unexpected changes. They have a steady mind that does not bend under pressure. They stay centered because they understand that no external situation has the authority to define their internal state unless they allow it. Becoming bigger than your problems means understanding that you are the constant and the problem is the temporary variable. The problem may be stressful, painful, or uncomfortable, but it will pass. What must remain steady is your mind. Your emotional stability must not be negotiable. Your discipline must not collapse under pressure. Your mindset must remain stronger than the circumstances attempting to shake you. When you adopt this attitude, problems stop being threats and start becoming training sessions, each one designed to prepare you for greater levels of life. A powerful Stoic truth is this: the weight of the problem is not what breaks you. The weakness of your foundation is what breaks you. Strengthen the foundation, and the weight becomes irrelevant. Once you build yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, negativity can knock on your door, but it cannot enter your mind. You face hardship with patience, challenges with strategy, and pain with understanding instead of panic. This is what it means to become bigger than your problems. Not by controlling what happens, but by controlling the kind of person you become because of what happens. And once you reach this level, you don't just stay positive in negative situations. You become unshakable, disciplined, emotionally grounded, and mentally untouchable. You transform into someone who walks through difficulty with calm strength because you finally understand. The problem is never bigger than you unless you choose to shrink yourself. 8. Protect your inner world from external chaos. One of the greatest Stoic powers is the ability to stay stable inside while the outside world is unstable. Most people suffer not because their life is bad, but because they allow everything around them to invade their inner world. A rude comment ruins their mood. A small setback destroys their confidence. Someone's opinion becomes their identity. A delay becomes a disaster. They surrender their peace to every external event without realizing that this is the fastest way to lose control of your life. Stoicism teaches that your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your focus, your intentions, must be protected like a sacred space. Because once the world enters and starts manipulating it, you lose your center. Think of your mind as a house. Not everyone deserves access to every room. Not every situation deserves your energy. Not every comment deserves your emotional reaction. Not every thought deserves your time. When your mental house has no boundaries, chaos finds its way inside. You begin living in reaction mode instead of intention mode. You feel tired, drained, irritated, and overwhelmed because you are carrying emotions that don't even belong to you. Protecting your inner world means learning how to shut the door at the right time. External chaos will always exist. People will misunderstand you. Life will create pressure. Plans will change. Unexpected problems will show up. But none of these things have the right to enter your inner peace unless you open the door for them. A Stoic does not deny external chaos. They simply refuse to let it infiltrate their mental and emotional space. They ask, is this worth my peace? Is this worth my energy? Does this matter to my long-term growth? Most of the time, the answer is no, but people still absorb negativity because they never learned to guard their mind. Protecting your inner world does not mean isolating yourself or ignoring reality. It means becoming selective about what you allow to shape your emotions. It means understanding that peace is not something you stumble upon. It is something you create by filtering what you allow inside. When you stop letting every situation disturb you, you gain the ability to think clearly in chaos, stay calm under pressure, and respond wisely instead of emotionally. This is the foundation of inner strength. And here is the truth. The world is loud, messy, unpredictable, and often unfair. If you depend on the outside world to be calm before you feel calm, you will spend your entire life waiting. Stoics never placed their emotional stability in the hands of the world. They cultivated a quiet inner sanctuary that remained steady even during storms. This inner stability is what makes positivity possible even in negative situations. When you protect your inner world, you no longer give every inconvenience the power to upset you, nor every negative person the authority to control your mood. The more you protect your inner world, the more influential, resilient, and peaceful you become. You begin to see that most battles are fought inside the mind long before anything happens outside. You realize that controlling your inner environment is more important than controlling the outer environment. And you discover a profound truth. When your inner world is strong, the outer world cannot break you. It can only challenge you, and those challenges become fuel for growth, not reasons to collapse. This is the final layer of Stoic positivity, not reacting to life, but responding from a place of inner strength, not absorbing the world, but observing it, not allowing chaos to live inside you, but keeping your center grounded, stable, and untouchable. Once you master this, negativity loses its power, and life can no longer pull you down from within. At some point in life, every person is forced to face moments that test their mind harder than their body. Situations will come that you never expected, challenges will appear that you never asked for, and emotions will rise that you never wanted to feel. But the truth is this: you are not defined by the situation. You are defined by the way you walk through it. Negativity becomes powerful only when your mind is untrained. Once you begin to take control of your interpretation, your reactions, your emotional habits, your perspective, and your inner boundaries, you step into a version of yourself that is no longer shaken by the chaos outside. Stoicism is not about pretending that everything is fine. It is not about being emotionless or cold. It is about developing a mind that stays calm while the world becomes loud. It is about training yourself to respond instead of react, to observe instead of absorb, and to rise instead of collapse. It is about understanding that external problems cannot break you unless your internal world is fragile. When you strengthen your internal world, your thoughts, your awareness, your discipline, your resilience, you become someone who can remain steady in the face of storms that once overwhelmed you. Every lesson you learned here is a tool. Control the meaning, because the meaning shapes the pain. Control your response, because your response shapes the outcome. Stop feeding the emotion, because emotions grow when you entertain them. Pause before you act, because wisdom lives in the space between impulse and reaction. Accept reality, because acceptance frees your energy. Choose perspective, because perspective shrinks pain. Become bigger than your problems, because strength makes obstacles small, and protect your inner world, because your peace is the foundation of everything. With these tools, you do not avoid negative situations. You outgrow them. You handle them with calmness, clarity, and confidence. You stop expecting life to make things easier and start expecting yourself to become stronger. You stop waiting for positivity and start creating it from within. And when you reach this level of mastery, something incredible happens. You realize that the world no longer has the power to dictate how you feel. You are no longer controlled by chaos, fear, or the unpredictability of life. You carry a steady center within you, untouched by circumstances. This is the true essence of Stoic positivity, a quiet inner strength that stays with you wherever you go, no matter what happens. If you practice these lessons consistently, you won't just survive negative situations, you'll transform through them. You'll grow because of them. And eventually, you'll become someone who walks through difficulty with the kind of confidence that only comes from mastering your own mind. This is how you stay positive in a negative situation, not by waiting for the world to change, but by becoming the kind of person who cannot be shaken by it.